Hi, I'm Michael Garcia. I'm a private wealth manager at Melbourne Capital Group. I'm joined by Emily Goss from Evelyn Partners.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm an investment manager specifically focusing on US connected clients. So I think there are a couple of issues. Ultimately, US persons moving abroad struggle with both US firms in the US not actually being able to continue to support them and their assets abroad. This doesn't mean all firms, but quite a few firms we're seeing in the market are unable to service those clients that are living overseas. On the other side of that, there are also many firms outside of the US that do not have the ability to support and look after US individuals.
Yeah, I've come across a lot of clients speaking to Americans around Asia. I see anything from my US brokerage account is put on restrictions. I can no longer buy or add money. I can only sell, or I can't hold mutual funds.
Yeah.
I've even seen you have 60 days to close your entire account, which is kind of the extreme end of that.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, because you're not living in America, what to do next becomes a really, really big issue.
Yeah.
Trying to open something in Malaysia where you're living, for example, most companies are going to say, you're American, we don't accept Americans. So you're kind of left in this gray area where you can't invest in America because you don't live there. You can't invest where you're living because you're American.
Yeah.
And so it's really a what do I do now situation.
Investment point of view, it's particularly concerning because if you've got assets invested in the US and you're suddenly not able to trade and the assets are completely frozen, you could be either out of the market or, unable to access those funds when you might need that liquidity.
Yeah. And there's a lot of global financial firms that are basically working with expats. The problem is Americans are treated quite differently from all the other expats. So I've come across Americans who are doing what a European expat is doing or a British expat. Exact same thing. It's available to the American, but it's treated in a very different way from a US tax perspective.
Yeah.
So it works out to not work very well for the Americans, where it might be a very great, tax efficient investment for a different nationality. It kind of works the opposite and comes with additional tax for the Americans.
Yeah, no, and I think that tends to be the kind of the saying is that the IRS will just look through it, and tax you aggressively. Anything that seems too good to be true is often just too good to be true for Americans living abroad, unless you're, of course, receiving the appropriate advice.
So yeah, it's very important. So for an American to not just do something that's available, but to do something that will be sort of in a tax-friendly way for the IRS. It's not going to come with additional tax burdens, additional reporting obligations, because Americans are quite unique in the sense that no matter where they move, anywhere in the world, they always have to, sort of refer back to the American tax system. And it's not just the local residency, which basically every other nationality gets to benefit from.
Except for Eritrea. It's US and Eritrea, the only countries that are taxed on citizenship, which is just sums it up really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine where there's two countries in the entire world that have a citizenship-based taxation.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is residency-based, and it's a real downfall for Americans to live in a tax-efficient or a tax-free jurisdiction and still have to pay U.S. tax. No matter what.
I think you and I both know that quite well because I'm in the UK, you're here in Malaysia, and we're both still, having to deal with the IRS.
Yeah, nobody likes it, but until they change the rules, which I don't really see happening, you just have to be as compliant as you can and work with people who know what they're talking about, know how to address these issues. And a company that has an SEC license, for example, helping you with investments is extremely important so that you don't end up with a massive tax bill at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's having a firm that can, appropriately look after the investment, so understand the pitfalls of various products, which, may be all right for any other expat in Malaysia, but is actually deemed a PFIC in the eyes of the IRS and taxed aggressively, ensuring that, a firm understands that, so is managing that tax implication, but also has that reporting, so it makes it easier for the individual, because ultimately, a lot of expats that are moving to Malaysia are there to enjoy life more, whether it's retirement or slower pace of life. I think actually helping those individuals deal with the reporting is really quite key. So a firm that is equipped to produce the 1099s that can go straight to the IRS is pretty key.
Yeah, and I've learned the reporting is obviously down to the individual, the American. It's not down to his financial advisor or even the bank holding the investments.
Yeah.
So a lot of these advisors, banks don't actually care. They just say, okay, this is available, you can have it. I've got dozens of other people doing it. And they don't really realize and don't put in the effort to actually help you with the tax reporting, which is all on the individual.
Yeah. Like, given the kind of the absolute nightmare of navigating cross-border complexities, it sounds like, speaking to Melbourne Capital, that have that local knowledge, but also have that network of SEC licensed firms is really the best solution, and helps them really manage the pain of moving abroad and still having to deal with the IRS.
Yeah, I think you really need expert advice to take a look at what you currently have and what are your options based on where you're living, and something that needs to be in sort of a tax-friendly way, so that you don't do anything that you look back and say, I probably shouldn't have done that, but no one told me not to. And I mean, I've spent years as an American myself trying to figure out basically what I can do. I've got all these expat clients doing these wonderful tax-efficient investments, and none of which I can do myself. And it took me a number of years, and Melbourne Capital Group basically introduced me to some options. And I've learned you need to have a U.S.-friendly platform and an SEC-registered investment manager in order to make sure that your investments are, compliant from a U.S. standpoint.
Yeah. You must find, though, that your U.S.-connected clients must really resonate with you, and you can share that pain together, being an American.
It does help, And there's a lot of things that you just wouldn't know unless you did the research or spoke to me, because it is very complicated. Especially the tax aspect. I've spoken to U.S. tax advisors in Asia, and I still struggle with the complexities. So when it comes to tax, that's a whole separate, speak to a tax advisor. When it comes to investments, you can speak with us, you can speak with some of our SEC registered partners,